What if the AI model you have been using all year quietly became dramatically more capable overnight, and the new version is already state of the art on almost every benchmark that matters? On June 9th, 2026, Anthropic released Claude Fable 5, and the company is calling it the most capable model it has ever made generally available. It belongs to a brand new tier Anthropic calls Mythos-Class, its frontier research track, now offered to the public for the first time. During early testing, Stripe used it to migrate a 50 million line Ruby codebase in a single day, a project that would normally take a team more than 2 months. In this video, I want to walk through what actually changed under the hood, how Anthropic is keeping a model this capable safe, what it costs, and whether it is worth switching to today. So what does Mythos class actually mean? Inside Anthropic, Mythos is the name for the frontier research track, the most advanced models the company builds before deciding how much of that capability is safe to release widely. Claude Fable 5 is the first model from that track made generally available, and according to Anthropic, it is state of the art on nearly all of the capability benchmarks they test, covering software engineering, broad knowledge work, vision, and scientific research. The interesting pattern is not just that it scores higher across the board, it is that the longer and more complex the task gets, the bigger Fable 5's lead becomes over every other model, including Anthropic's own previous best, Claude Opus 4.8. In other words, this is not a small bump on quick questions. It is built for the kind of multi-step, multi-hour work that used to require a human checking in every few minutes. That brings us to the headline change: how long Fable 5 can work on its own before it needs a human to step back in. Anthropic says Fable 5 and its sibling, Claude Mythos 5, can operate autonomously for longer stretches than any previous Claude model. The clearest example so far comes from Stripe. During early access, Stripe pointed Fable 5 at a Ruby codebase containing 50 million lines of code and asked it to perform a codebase-wide migration. A task like that would normally take an engineering team more than 2 months of careful, coordinated work. Fable 5 completed it in a single day. That is not a toy benchmark. It is a real production code base at a company that processes a meaningful share of the world's online payments. The practical takeaway is a shift in how you delegate work. Instead of breaking a big migration into dozens of small prompts, you can hand over the whole project and check back later. Naturally, a model this capable raises an obvious question: what stops it from being misused? Anthropic's answer is a new layer of classifiers, separate AI systems that run alongside Fable 5 and watch for jailbreak attempts and other misuse in real time. When a request touches certain sensitive areas, specifically cybersecurity, biology, and chemistry, or attempts to distill the model's capabilities into another system, the classifiers quietly hand that conversation off to Claude Opus 4.8 instead of Fable 5. Anthropic says these safeguards are tuned conservatively, triggering in less than 5% of sessions, which means more than 95% of everyday usage runs entirely on Fable 5's full capabilities without ever noticing the safety layer. There is also a data retention change worth knowing about. Prompts and outputs sent to Mythos-Class models are kept for 30 days specifically for trust and safety review, longer than Anthropic's typical retention window. Here is the part that surprised a lot of people: a more capable model that costs less to run. Fable 5 and Mythos 5 are priced at $10 per million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens, which Anthropic says is less than half the price of the earlier Claude Mythos preview. If you are paying for the API, that is a meaningful drop for a model that is, by Anthropic's own benchmarks, the strongest one they have shipped. And if you are on a Claude subscription rather than the API, there is a limited window to try it for free. From launch day through June 22nd, Fable 5 is included at no extra cost on Pro, Max, Team, and seat-based enterprise plans. After that window, normal plan limits and pricing apply, so if you have been on the fence about testing it, that 2-week window is the cheapest possible way to do it. One thing Anthropic clearly prioritized this time was distribution. Fable 5 did not just land quietly in Anthropic's own app and API, it shipped simultaneously across the platforms a lot of teams already build on. It is available on Amazon, Bedrock, and across AWS for teams running infrastructure there. GitHub made it generally available inside GitHub Copilot on the same day, so developers get the upgrade directly inside their existing editor workflow. And Harvey, the legal AI platform used by law firms and in house teams, rolled it out as well. The pattern here matters. Instead of forcing teams to migrate to a new tool to get frontier capability, Anthropic pushed the upgrade into the tools people are already using every day. If your team already has Claude available through one of these platforms, there is a good chance Fable 5 is already accessible to you right now without any setup. Fable 5 was not the only model released that day. Alongside it, Anthropic launched Claude Mythos 5, the same underlying model, but with some of those safety classifiers loosened in specific areas. Mythos 5 is not broadly available. It is being offered to a small, vetted group of cyber defenders and critical infrastructure providers, initially through something called Project Glasswing, run in collaboration with the US government. The idea is that defenders protecting power grids, financial systems, and other critical infrastructure sometimes need to ask an AI model questions that would normally get redirected by the safety classifiers, things that look like attack techniques but are actually being used for defense. Rather than build one model for everyone, Anthropic is running two tiers in parallel: a safety tuned version for the public and a less restricted version for a narrow group doing defensive work under government oversight. It is a notable template for how frontier labs might handle increasingly capable models going forward. So here is where that leaves you. As of right now, Claude Fable 5 is the most capable model Anthropic has ever made publicly available. It is cheaper per token than its predecessor, and if you are on a paid Claude plan, it is free to use through June 22nd. That is a short window to test it on something real. Don't just ask it trivia. Give it the kind of long, messy, multi-step task you would normally break into a dozen smaller requests: a refactor, a research summary, a first draft of a whole project, and see how far it gets before it needs you again. That is where Fable 5 is built to shine. If this breakdown was useful, subscribe. I cover model releases like this as soon as they land, and let me know in the comments. What is the first big task you are going to throw at Fable 5?